Good afternoon. This is the Government, Labor, and Elections Committee, and we are here today of April the 7th. We are mostly hearing cross-filed Senate bills today. These are all sponsor only. It'll look like we're moving pretty quickly, but most of these bills are identical to House bills that we've already discussed and deliberated and passed through the House. I'm Delegate Ken Kerr. I'm Vice Chair of the committee, serving as chair while Chair Melissa Wells is in a leadership meeting. So we'll go ahead and get started with the first bill. Is anyone here from Senate President Ferguson's office? Chair Bidle's office? Anyone here from Chair Bidle's office? Then let's start with House Bill, or Senate Bill 803.
Good afternoon, Mr. Vice Chair and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Abigail Bento. I am Chair Bidle's legislative aide. Thank you for the opportunity to present SB 803, Class 3 wineries and Class 4 limited wineries, bulk wine as amended. Senate Bill 803 passed the Senate Finance Committee 10-0 and the Senate 45-0. It is the cross-file of HB 111 and the 1111, and they are not in the same posture. SB 803 consists of minor technical fixes that enable our Class 3 and Class 4 wineries to be more resilient, better manage challenging growing seasons, and to promote Maryland agriculture when it has a particularly strong year. SB 803 codifies that farm wineries can sell and transport bulk wine to production wineries, and that production wineries may acquire the bulk wine from them. This encourages the use of Maryland grapes, leading to the expansion of Maryland grape vintage acreage. The bill, as amended, allows our wineries to produce pomace brandy from Maryland-grown agricultural products, such as watermelon, blueberries, or peaches. Under current law, Maryland wineries can already produce pomace brandy from the residue of the wine pressing process. This is a minor expansion of what Maryland wineries can already do. This amendment supports Maryland agriculture and our wineries. No stakeholders have voiced opposition to this amendment. I respectfully request a favorable report on SB 803 as amended to support our Maryland wineries and vineyards.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for the witness? Seeing none, that will conclude the testimony for Senate Bill 803.
Thank you.
Senator Bidle does not have any additional bills before us. Thank you. Anyone here from Senator Jackson's office? Senator Jackson's office?
Yes, sir.
Okay, then let's start. Let's go to Senate Bill 35.
Perfect. Good afternoon, Vice Chair Kerr, members of the committee. I'm Brian Powell here on behalf of Senator Jackson in support of SB 335, State Designation, State Natural Sciences Museum, Natural History Society of Maryland. SB 35, as passed by the Senate, has one clarifying amendment, but is otherwise in the same posture as HB 121, which was heard earlier this session by this committee. It would name the Natural History Society of Maryland as the State Natural Sciences Museum. I respectfully request a favorable report.
Thank you. Any questions for the witness on Senate Bill 35? Seeing none, that'll conclude the hearing on Senate Bill 35, and we will move on to Senate Bill 72.
Perfect. Good afternoon again, everyone on the committee. I'm still Brian Powell, still here for Senator Jackson, and here in support of SB 72, Baltimore County Alcoholic Beverages Sale for Off-Premises Consumption. This bill is in the same posture as its cross-file, HB 121, which was passed unanimously by both this committee and the House. It also has the support of both the Baltimore County House and Senate delegations, and I respectfully request a favorable report again.
Thank you. Seeing no questions, we'll conclude the hearing.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
On Senate Bill 72. Thank you for coming in today. Do we have anyone here from Senator Kagan's office? Senator Attar's office?
Yes.
This is Senate Bill 361.
Correct. Good afternoon, all the members of the committee. I am here on behalf of Senator Tarr. My name is Sandy Rosenbluth, her Chief of Staff. SB 361 is an identical cross-file of HB 348, which you passed unanimously in the House of Delegates. It extends the expiration of a racetrack alcoholic beverages license issued for the Pimlico Racetrack for the purpose of completing renovations until July 1st, 2029. I ask for a favorable report of SB 361, and I thank you.
I don't see any questions, so thank you for coming in. And that will conclude the hearing on Senate Bill 361. Anyone here from Senator Simon Ayer's office? Thank you. Please come forward.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. My name is Kara Contino, presenting on behalf of Senator Brian Simon Ayer for Senate Bill 76. This is identical to Delegate Rogers' House Bill 727, which passed the House unanimously. So I'll leave it at that and ask for your favorable consideration.
Okay, thank you for bringing the bill to us today.
Thank you.
And that will conclude the hearing on Senate Bill 76. Anne Arundel County Delegation Senators, okay, please come forward. We have a few of these, I think. Yes, we do. We'll begin with Senate Bill 396.
Good afternoon, Mr. Vice Chair, members of the committee. Ronald Hughes, on behalf of Senator Don Guile, District 33, here to present Senate Bill 396. It's the cross-file of HB 339. This bill reclassifies the chief inspector position from a non-represented 5 to a non-represented 12 to align compensation with executive level responsibilities. The chief inspector position serves a key strategic partner with the executive level responsibilities, overseeing critical full-time initiatives and managing 19 inspectors, a role that demands 24/7 availability. The position acts as the primary liaison for law enforcement and oversees all investigative efforts in the county. However, the current position is currently classified as an NR 05. Given that the county has confirmed the full-time employees are typically graded at an NR 08 or higher, the current classification fails to reflect the position's elevated scope of work. When reviewing the full-time staff on the Anne Arundel County Board of License Commissioners, the executive director is an NR 17, the administrator is an NR 16, thus coding the chief inspector as an NR 05 does not properly capture the duties, responsibilities, and authorities of that role. This adjustment is verified and fully supported by the Office of Personnel. Generally, the board is responsible for funding its own operations, including salaries of inspectors, using revenue from license fees. While the bill modifies the pay schedule for the full-time chief inspector, it does not directly require the board to increase or decrease the inspector's salary. This bill more closely aligns the salary range of the chief inspector with the same position in similarly sized local jurisdictions. No fiscal impact to the state. Bill only affects local government operations. It's not expected to materially affect Anne Arundel County finances or operations. This change is funded from existing board-generated revenue, and there is no increase in license fees or additional county appropriation. The bill passed the Senate unanimously 44-0, and with that, Mr. Vice Chair, I respectfully ask for a favorable report on SB 396.
Okay, thank you. Questions for the witness? Seeing none, that will conclude the hearing on Senate Bill 396. And you're also here for Senate Bill 398?
Yes, sir. Again, for the record, Ronald Hughes, on behalf of Senator Guile, District 33, presenting Senate Bill 398. This is the cross-file of House Bill 874. 398 is a modification to SB 972 from 2025 that was vetoed by Governor Moore. The bill increases the size of the Board of License Commissioners for Anne Arundel County from 3 to 5, changes the appointment process, and requires the board to adopt a conflict of interest policy. The governor shall appoint the members of the board from a list of individuals recommended by the county, House, and Senate delegations. The governor may request a new list of the recommendations. No more than 3 members of the board may belong to the same political party, and no more than 2 members of the board may be residents of the same legislative district. Finally, the board shall adopt and publish written conflict of interest policy detailing the process for recusal of board members from board matters. This bill passed the Senate unanimously 42-0. And with that, Mr. Vice Chair, I respectfully ask for a favorable report on SB 398.
Thank you. Seeing no questions, we will conclude the bill hearing on Senate Bill 398 and move on to Senate Bill 399.
Again, for the record, Ronald Hughes, on behalf of Senator Guile, here to present Senate Bill 399, the cross-file of House Bill 522. Currently, the fee structure for one-day events is a flat rate, $25 for beer and wine, and $50 for beer, wine, and liquor, regardless of the event size. As a result, a large festival with multiple points of sale pays the same license fee as a small family reunion. This flat rate system does not account for the significant inspection resources required to monitor large multi-vendor events. SB 399 applies the existing license fee to each point of sale at large-scale events with attendance of 500 or more. The application process remains unchanged, and individual vendors will not be required to submit separate applications. Small events and family reunions remain unchanged. This change will affect approximately 11 organizations, which is about 40 events annually, out of roughly 1,600 one-day licenses issued each year, leaving the vast majority of applicants unchanged. There's no impact to the state, and Anne Arundel County revenues increase by up to $7,000 annually beginning in FY27. This bill passed the Senate unanimously, 42-0. And with that, Mr. Vice Chair, I respectfully ask for a favorable report on SB 399.
Thank you. Seeing no questions, we will conclude the bill hearing on Senate Bill 399. The next bill is Senate Bill 400.
Again, for the record, Ronald Hughes, on behalf of Senator Guile, here to present Senate Bill 400, the cross-file of House Bill 519. SB 400 modernizes the entertainment permit structure by replacing outdated terminology with clear tiers, background versus general versus full entertainment, to accurately reflect the scope of activity at licensed venues. It revises and renames various alcoholic beverage entertainment permits in Anne Arundel County as follows. Number 1, a music permit is renamed a background entertainment permit. 2, an entertainment permit is renamed a general entertainment permit. And 3, a dancing permit is renamed a full entertainment permit. Under current law in Anne Arundel County, except for piped-in background music or one television screen, the holder of an alcoholic beverages license generally may not play music, to include live music or music by a disc jockey, operate a karaoke machine, or allow dancing, floor shows, or any other similar type of entertainment on the licensed premises or on an adjacent property in which the licensee has ownership or control, unless the license holder is issued the appropriate entertainment permit authorizing the activity. The new framework renames the tiers to accurately reflect the scope of activity, creating a clearer distinction between standard entertainment and venues with permanent dance floors and stages. There's no fiscal impact on the state. The bill is not expected to materially affect Anne Arundel County finances or operations. This bill passed the Senate unanimously, 42-0. And with that, Mr. Vice Chair, I respectfully ask for a favorable report on SB 400.
Okay, thank you. Seeing no questions, we'll conclude the testimony on Senate Bill 400. The next bill we will consider is Senate Bill 401.
For the record, Ronald Hughes, representing Senator Guile, here to present Senate Bill 401, the cross-file of House Bill 512. SB 401 provides a base salary adjustment for inspectors and board members to account for economic changes since 2007 and ties future adjustments to county COLA standards. This proposal creates a statutory mechanism to tie adjustments to county standards. This structural change eliminates the need for future legislative requests regarding these specific salary adjustments. It authorizes adjustments to the Board of License Commissioners and part-time inspector salaries. The chair of the board salary will go from $18,000 to just over $21,000 per year. Board member salaries will change from $15,000 to $17,700 per year. Part-time deputy chief inspector salary will be not less than $18,000 per year. And the 18 part-time inspectors' annual salaries will change from $7,000 to $88,260. All of these positions are subject to cost of living increases available to non-represented Anne Arundel County employees. Inspectors and board members have not received a salary adjustment since 2007. There is no fiscal impact on the state. Anne Arundel County salary expenditures will increase by just over $33,000 annually beginning in '27. Anne Arundel County revenues are not affected, no impact on small business, and this salary adjustment is funding from the existing board-generated revenue. This bill passed the Senate 41-1. With that, Mr. Vice Chair, I respectfully ask for a favorable report on SB 401.
Thank you. I don't see any questions for you. We will conclude the hearing on Senate Bill 401. The next bill we will take up is Senate Bill 441.
Mr. Vice Chair, members of the committee, Ronald Hughes, on behalf of Senator Guile, here to present Senate Bill 441, the cross-file of House Bill 682. Senate Bill 441 establishes a golf club and sports activities facility license. A golf course license would now be available to a golf course with at least 9 holes. Additionally, this bill authorizes a sports activity venue beer and wine license, as well as a beer, wine, and liquor license to commercial recreational facilities that offer bowling, golf simulators, multi-sport simulators, indoor or outdoor pickleball courts, indoor gymnasiums or training centers, or any similar sport activity or venue. Many venues are currently limited to licenses that are overly restrictive or do not match their actual operations, such as a Class D tavern or Class H restaurant license, because no other option existed. So this proposal provides a dedicated license for venues that operate distinct business models focused on recreation. There is no fiscal impact on the state. We anticipate Anne Arundel County revenues will increase beginning in '27 to the extent that new licenses are issued. This streamlined approach allows previously misclassified venues to obtain proper licensure while providing a clear, simplified path for new applicants. Now, we are requesting, in conjunction with the House cross-file, one amendment for this bill to exempt this new license type from Section 11-1603 of the ABC article. That's the 1,000-foot exemption from schools or places of worship. We had some feedback from local constituents that are already up and operational, like in an existing warehouse facility. Thus, they needed that exemption to maintain, because that's where their business is located. So we did deconflict this with the House, and that's being submitted for the cross-file of this as well, sir. And so the original version passed the Senate 39-0 without amendment. But in this case, we are respectfully asked for a favorable report on SB 441 with amendment.
Okay, thank you. Questions for the witness? Seeing none, we will conclude the hearing on Senate Bill 441. And you're with us for one more bill today.
Yes, sir. Apparently, Anne Arundel County likes its liquor bills. Once again, sir, Ronald Hughes for Senator Guile, here to present Senate Bill 852. This is the cross-file of House Bill 1286. SB 852 authorizes a holder of a barbershop or beauty salon license in Anne Arundel County to provide a certain amount of liquor for on-premises consumption in addition to beer and wine. The license authorizes the license holder to provide not more than 12 ounces of beer, 5 ounces of wine by the glass, or 1.7 ounces of liquor for on-premises consumptions by a barbershop or beauty salon customer. The existing licenses for barbershops and beauty salons only authorize the provision of beer and wine for on-premises consumption. This bill passed the Senate 44-1. And with that, Mr. Vice Chair, I respectfully ask for a favorable report on SB 852.
Well, thank you. And I don't see any questions. And so I think your work here is done.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I saw Delegate Watson here. Are you here to present Senator Lamb's bill?
Senator Hester is here. She's a co-sponsor of Senator Lamb's bill.
Okay.
On the House side. I'm here. We'll vote.
You're here for Senator Lamb's office? Yeah. Okay. Then let's go ahead and do, back up and do Senate Bill 627.
Do you want to go ahead?
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. For the record, my name is Kaylee Pound. I work in Senator Lamb's office. This bill is identical to House Bill 770, which the committee has previously heard, and is seeking to name January 13th as Korean American Day in recognition of the countless contributions to our state that Korean Americans have made. We have many advocates here in the lobby. If anybody wants to stand up. Those in support of the bill, please stand up. While Senator Lamb couldn't be here today, he's thankful that everybody did show up. And with that, I request a favorable report.
Okay, thank you. Do we have questions for the panel? Senator Hester.
Thank you so much, Chair Kerr. I just wanted to thank the House. I know that you guys passed this bill in 2024 and are so appreciative of the Korean American community and how much of a great role they've played, here in the Maryland area, and kindly ask for your support again now that the Senate has managed to get the bill over here to the House. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You're welcome. And to all of you who took the time to come out today to support this bill, thank you. Your presence here means a lot.
Thank you, everyone.
With that, we will conclude the testimony on Senate Bill 627. And I saw Senator Kagan come in. Let's go ahead and begin with Senate Bill 69.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Colleagues, it's nice to be back in Glee. And I should tell you that my brain is all kerfuffled because we have been on the floor. And so I thought the first senator hitting the floor. Anyway, Cheryl Kagan, very proud to be the senator for Gaithersburg and Rockville. Here with a bill that you've already heard, you heard last year, you passed last year, but unfortunately, there was an amendment, and this bill simply seeks to address the amendment, and it's a brackets bill. So California is creating a whole department to help their nonprofit organizations. In Maryland, we created the very first, we were their role model, and we created one job for a nonprofit navigator to help 41,000 plus nonprofit organizations in the state of Maryland, whether it's about finding out whether they're eligible for a grant, whether it's about getting the payment that's been delayed from an agency or department and making sure that they get the funds that they have earned, whether it's about training, whether it's about making sure that they're in compliance. There's new budget language. And so this would educate and inform and assist people with compliance with all of our laws. There is someone in this position who's doing an amazing job. She has been traveling around the state, is available to all of our little guys, the little startups and stuff, and she has a little magic wand that has, I've gotten so many calls from people who have told me how she's made a difference for them. Delegate Solomon, you may not have heard, but Interfaith Works was having trouble getting funding. She made a phone call or two, and in a couple of days, they got funding that they had been trying to get paid for months. So this bill is really simple. It's making sure that the dignity of this one person is given to her. Because it was a 2-year sunset, she was hired as contractual. And this is not about any one person, it's about the position. Contractual means she doesn't have health insurance. She doesn't have benefits. And if I were her, if any of us were her, I think we'd start looking for a job because there's no guarantee that the position would continue. So she's doing a great job. You've got information in your packets on the variety, the number, and the size of the nonprofits that she's already helped in just the, I think, 4 or 5 months that she's been on the job. I hope she'll continue, but I hope the position will continue with benefits. Happy to take any questions.
Questions for Senator Kagan? Seeing none, we will conclude the hearing on Senate Bill 69. The next bill you have before us is Senate Bill 114.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for chairing the committee as vice chair and today, but thank you also for your leadership on this issue and on this bill. So for the record, I'm Cheryl Kagan, very proud to be the senator for Gaithersburg and Rockville with this really exciting bipartisan bill. I don't know whether he's going to pop in, but Senator Quarterman, my partner in this, has said that he would try to come and be with me and sit with me. On the House side, Delegate Lopez, along with Delegate Kipke and Delegate Kerr, have been working on this issue. Here's what it does, and here's why. I'm going to tell you the why, and then I'll tell you the what. 3 people have died in my district when 911 has failed. Maybe you all have heard me talk about that. It's because of that that we have passed legislation over the past bunch of years that have put Maryland at the forefront nationally on next generation 911. But there's only a certain amount of technology, training, recruitment, retention, cybersecurity, oversight, accountability, mental health care, and all of that. We have done all of that. There's only a certain amount that can address. The problem is, and the Baltimore Sun did a study, that more than 80% of calls into Baltimore City's 911 center were for non-emergencies. People are taught from the youngest age that if you're in trouble, if there's a problem, that you call 911. Now, in this room, we know that it's for police, fire, and paramedics. If the house is literally on fire, if grandma isn't breathing, or if someone has just attacked you, you call 911. But people don't know where else to go. And if they're not good at technology, or they don't have a computer, or they don't have Wi-Fi, or Wi-Fi is down in a storm, or English isn't their native language, or all the other reasons, it's the easy shortcut to call 911. The problem is that our 24 911 centers are chronically understaffed and overworked. And so when they get non-emergency calls, then the emergency call is in a queue behind a non-emergency call. So there's a delay. And how many of us have gotten calls from constituents who've waited on hold for minutes and minutes? So for 7 years, this body, we have been working to explore a statewide 311. Now, as you may know, there are 6 jurisdictions that already have 311. Montgomery, Prince George's, Baltimore City, Baltimore County, Anne Arundel County, and St. Mary's has a version of it. 18 counties have none. It's also important to note that even the 6 counties that have 311, it's not available all the time. Delegate from Anne Arundel County, yours closes at 4:30. Monday through Friday, 4:30. Montgomery County closes at 7. Everything is so, and a lot of times the emergencies happen crazy hours in the middle of the night. That's when something happens. And that's when we want our 911 specialist to be answering the phone and not dealing with non-emergencies. So, artificial intelligence is both exciting and scary, I think, to many of us. We don't know what the future is going to bring, but this is a great use of artificial intelligence. It makes creating a statewide 311 possible and affordable and accurate. So when someone wants to know what time their library closes, that's easy. A robot can tell them that. Where do they early vote? Where can they get a flu shot near them? How do they file for a small business permit or an application to build a deck behind their home? AI can help with that. So here's how this program would work. And I should tell you, and again, I'm going to give a shout out to Senator Quarterman again. This has been bipartisan from the very beginning. We had a work group that was legislatively mandated. We brought all sorts of experts and delegates and senators and cybersecurity folks and people with disabilities and others into a room, into this work group. And we divided into 3 committees, subcommittees. We had regular, live-streamed, inclusive committee hearings, subcommittee hearings. We did everything transparently, took feedback, welcomed people who were not on the work group to give their feedback, and this is an amalgamation of everybody's best ideas. I will say that not only did this work group that approved this report unanimously happen with enthusiasm, it has passed the Senate committee unanimously and the full Senate unanimously. I'm hoping for similar behavior in the House on both the Senate bill and the House bill. So this starts with 4 counties, 2 that currently have 311 and 2 that don't. We're not calling it a pilot program because pilots sometimes don't go forward. This is a phase. We are phasing it in. There is going to be a technical advisory committee, which was recommended by MACO. That's one of the amendments that we took through this process. So the tech experts who don't need to be through the entire process, but will help with implementation. The technical advisory committee is created in this bill, and then there's an oversight board that is thoughtfully made up of legislators, cabinet departments, and others to make sure that we have good oversight. We start by creating a request for proposal, an RFP. A vendor is selected, and then we start with a voice bot, and then later a chat bot. It is multilingual. We learn from cities around the country. We spent a lot of time, and we had demos from vendors, prospective vendors, as well as we met with folks in DC, in Baltimore, and Denver, which has been doing it for a while. I do want to mention that Baltimore has a history of the very first 911 center, and they had the first 311 center. And so Maryland has an opportunity with this bill to create the first statewide 311 system using artificial intelligence. There have been some questions that were asked about the cost. I totally get that we are in tight fiscal times. As the report says, and we quoted the governor, this is about leaving no one behind, and literally this program can do that. Everyone would have access to 311, whether it's through phone, through a website, through an app. We're going to be working to make it fully accessible regardless of your language, your age, your abilities or disabilities. It would be available to anyone. And that is for $1 million. It is astonishing that we can accomplish all of this for a really reasonable, I almost want to say paltry, but I totally get that it's our taxpayer funding. I think it is well invested in a way that will make a difference in people's lives. There is so much more. I'm just going to glance really quickly at my notes to make sure that I've covered stuff, but I am happy to take questions because this is a bit of a big deal. I want to give a shout out to Sarah El Alami at DeWitt, the Department of Information Technology, Donovan Ham, David Propert, and Yasho Rai at DLS. And a couple more things. This is going to be responsible AI. So if someone says, where can I get a flu shot? They're not going to get back, do you know that a flu shot can give you autism? It's going to be to government agencies. It will be curated. There will be evaluations and updates so that we make sure that people get accurate, timely, factual information. I also want to talk about the importance of interoperability. This does not install artificial intelligence for 911 or for 988, the suicide and mental health crisis hotline that too many of our constituents are not yet aware of. It would be housed in 211, which is the social service portal. So 211, 311, 911, and 988 would all be very clearly interoperable. So it's called no wrong door. The call that comes in that, oops, this is an emergency, hold on, we're going to patch you right through to 911, and vice versa. And 988, this is really needs to be handled by a mental health care professional. So that's an important part of this, and that's covered in the bill. I think that covers what I'd like to cover. So SB 114 is the bill that's before you. House Bill 9 by Delegate Lopez, Delegate Kerr, Delegate Kipke would be the cross-file. I do hope that both move, and I hope that Maryland can lead the way and become the very first state to have a statewide 311. And again, Mr. Chair, thank you, and happy to take any questions.
Okay, I see a question from Delegate Sample Hughes.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Senator, for the bill. I just have one quick question for you. Will the technical advisory group, will they make the decision as to which two counties don't have the 311 to participate in this next phase?
That's a great question. The Technical Advisory Committee would be doing the technical stuff, the geeky stuff that most of us can't do, but the Oversight Board would take applications. We'd be partnering with MACO. If you saw, the Oversight Board is appointed in partnership with the legislative leadership, the governor, Maryland Association of Counties, and then there are also a number of departments that would send either the cabinet secretary or their designee. The counties would offer up, and several counties have already reached out that they want to be a part of it from the beginning. Frankly, others kind of want to watch and see how it goes, and it's fine either way, but we want to make sure that we can have a cross-section, so we have 4 different counties with different experiences and experience levels, basically.
Okay, so they're going to be able to submit an application to the oversight group, correct, the counties? And then do they have to show forth that they have any financial capacity to do this? Or
Great question.
Just interested in moving forward?
Great question. There is no cost to the counties. That's really important. This does not ask them to do anything. So counties that already have 311, we're not going to mess with you. We're not asking you to change anything. Counties that don't have it, the only thing that we are hoping is that counties will keep their websites updated. So if someone wants to know what time the fireworks are in my county, I hope that the robot wouldn't, the AI bot wouldn't find something from, 2023. So they have to get rid of some of their old pages, but they should be doing that anyway. So no obligation from the counties. In terms of the details or an application or sign up or anything, that's not in the bill. That would be figured out as we go along.
Sure.
There would be a process.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I was just trying to visualize the process.
I love that.
Thank you
I
so
did
much
that
for
too.
your answers.
Thank you, Delegate Sample Hughes.
Other questions for Senator Kagan? I don't see any, Senator. Thanks for bringing this bill.
Thank you so much, Mr. Vice Chair. Thank you all.
And with that, we will conclude the hearing on Senate Bill 114. Senator Kramer has joined us. Welcome, Senator.
And thank you for that. I don't hear those words very often, Mr. Chair, so I appreciate that. And good afternoon to you and the members of the committee. Colleagues, Ben Kramer, pardon me, introducing Senate Bill 84, which is the cross-file to House Bill 141, which this committee has heard. And it relates to providing the opportunity, should they choose to avail themselves of it, for graduate assistants to participate in collective bargaining at the University of Maryland, specifically College Park and Baltimore County as amended in the Senate. The only other thing I have to offer you that I believe is different then the way the posture of the bill in the House is that it delays the implementation of the legislation until July 1, 2028 from 2026. So with that, Mr. Chair, I really don't have anything to add that you haven't heard already, but certainly would be happy to answer any questions, particularly from Delegate Fisher, because he tends to be an inquiring mind. So.
Well, thank you, Senator. I didn't notice the order in which lights went on, so I'm just going to make it up. So we'll start with Delegate Ruth.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you, Senator, for the bill, this really, really super important bill. I did want to just clarify about one of the amendments in on page 4. It removes on line 28, except for a graduate assistant, which then seems to say the title does not apply to anyone who is grant funded. Is that correct?
As amended, and I think that may be the case in both the House and Senate bills, that is correct.
I don't believe we had this amendment on the House bill.
Then I may be incorrect.
So I am not positive on that, but I don't remember this amendment when it came through the House. But are you aware that most science graduate students are grant funded if they're working in a research program?
I am not, but I will share with you, this is not an amendment that I offered to the bill. Having sponsored this bill, I believe 8 years in a row now, this is the first time I've ever come over to the House with any of the bill that has passed. So it's not in the posture as introduced. And again, I apologize. I'm not sure exactly what has happened over here in the House. But I do understand there was some concern about the issue with regard to the grant funding.
Yeah, thank you. And just for clarification, my son is a physicist. Although he's not in Maryland, I understand his experiences, and he was certainly grant funded when he was a research assistant. And it just seems like if we're going to say research assistants can't have collective bargaining, but teaching assistants can, that seems like it creates an unlevel playing field, particularly when research assistants are often in the sciences where there is grant funding. And so just one more.
And by the way, we're in complete agreement on that.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I have one more question. I don't know if you know the answer to this, but my understanding is it's common for when a graduate student is, before they're accepted into a research program, that often they're a teaching assistant for the first year or two until they get a place on a research project. So and that certainly was the case for my son. So if someone is a teaching assistant and they are granted collective bargaining rights and they become a member of the union, it's supposing that we know this doesn't create a union, but supposing they go through that whole process, and then they get a research assistant position, do they get kicked out of the union?
That's a very good question, whether they would be kicked out or just not eligible to participate based on whether what it is they're working on is grant funded, I think would be the question, not necessarily research versus teaching, but again, the issue of whether the position is grant funded. So,
thank you. Thank you so much, Senator.
Yeah, no, thank you for the insights.
I believe Delegate Solomon has some clarifying information. I'll call on him next.
He has a way of doing that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I don't mean to correct my esteemed colleagues, but this section of code is a little tricky to read sometimes. So if you look at the definition of graduate assistant, it includes research assistant, comparable position, or a fellow and a postdoctoral intern. The section that you all are referring to is the section of code that says these classifications cannot collectively bargain. So the except for and the strike is to essentially strike the language that says they cannot collectively bargain, adds in graduate assistant, which is defined earlier in the bill, that includes those categories. So just to correct the record, that is, the tweak is because the bill is drafted so that those categories are included in a definition of graduate assistant, and then the except for at the page 4 of the bill adds them into the section, exempts them from the section that says these classifications cannot collectively bargain. So just wanted to get that on the record.
Ed, thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you, Delegate Solomon. Delegate Crutchfield.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to say to the senator, thank you for the short, concise, and clear summary of your bill.
Hear, hear.
And there's that. Thank you.
Yes.
Delegate Terrassa.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Senator, for this great bill. I'm just curious, just sort of following up on some of the amendments, whether you had any thought as to, or do you know what the thinking was in terms of pushing back the implementation for 2 years?
I think there was just a sentiment amongst some in the committee that if they were going to vote in favor of the bill, that they were going to have that amendment on the bill. And the bill did pass the committee by, I believe, a vote, although there were several members missing on the day the vote was taken up in committee, the bill was taken up. So it made it a very, very close vote. And again, not my preference. Having been fighting this battle, as I said, I believe for consecutively 8 years now, trying to provide this very basic and important opportunity for the hardworking women and men who serve as graduate assistants. And the fact of the matter is they do an overwhelming amount of the work, and to keep the trains running on time in the classrooms, and something that they have long deserved the opportunity to at least avail themselves if they choose to do so. And by the way, colleagues, the University of Maryland, and I pull in both College Park and Baltimore County into this, primarily College Park, is one of, but I believe, 2 member universities of the Big Ten that do not at least provide this opportunity. They all haven't chosen to do so, but they are provided that opportunity with the exception of 2 schools in the Big Ten. So, yeah.
Thank you, and thank you for your persistence on this really, really important bill.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Delegate Chisholm.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Senator, since you managed to stricken Mr. Fisher silent, I'm going to take a shot at this.
And I'm a little disappointed his microphone is not lit.
Yes,
but
I was disappointed myself. Two questions. One is, did you see what happened with California when they did this? It seems to me what their reaction was, they passed a similar law, and you know, I love to cite California. But they cut back on their graduate assistance enrollment. So instead of, because obviously everybody's got budgetary concerns, their answer was, all right, we're just going to cut back on how many graduate assistants we hire. That's one. And then 2, and I know this personally, when COVID hit, I happen to know Dr. Bruce Jarrell personally, and Governor Hogan ordered faulty test kits. Then we ordered more test kits. Well, the second batch needed a lab to be built, and he was in charge of that. And his research team had to quickly transition to make sure that those test kits worked. So when he came in and testified, and then I spoke to him afterwards, he said, this is going to really complicate research and I know it's not the intent of the bill, but if you had any questions on that, and do you feel like this does endanger a lot of our world-renowned research?
To your first point, what happened, I think, in California is not necessarily at all a reflection of having afforded the graduate assistants the opportunity to bargain collectively. And in fact, that has not been the case in the hundreds of universities across the country where this does exist. And in fact, again, in the overwhelming majority of the Big Ten universities, in which the University of Maryland College Park is a member. So that has not been the case at all. And there are a lot of drivers as to what may or may not at the end of the day affect the budgets of a university. And a big portion of this bill and what it affords the graduate assistants doesn't necessarily have anything to do with pay, but significant consequences for working conditions. And in very often during the years that this bill has been introduced, we've just heard about the conditions in which graduate assistants find themselves, often not knowing whether they will have a job until literally the week before school starts, often finding they have no office space at all, and often finding they don't have the resources when they have concerns to discuss their concerns. So it goes well beyond looking at pay per se, and there are certainly, again, so many things that affect what may or may not be part of a university's budget or how they may choose to prioritize it. I also do not believe, and to be honest with you, I'm not sure what it is that you heard, but we have never, in all the years this bill, and the university system has come in opposition, I have never heard them say that they felt that it would have a harmful effect on their ability to actually perform research. And I'm not sure in what context that was presented to you.
I think it was more of a cost question. That it could possibly drive up costs, and then if costs hit a certain point, maybe then they have to cut back, which then complicates the research.
And again, that has not proven to be the case. And I focus heavily on the Big Ten because that's where, you know, the university at College Park is part of now, and they are premier universities in the nation, and that has not manifested itself or proven itself to be an issue. And many of them have been doing this for literally decades, where they've afforded this opportunity to their graduate assistants.
And because I'm not a lawyer, I'm going to ask this question. I know you never ask a question unless you know the answer to. I truly do not know the answer to this. Is there any comparison between universities that do allow the collective bargaining as opposed to ones that do not, as far as cost? Because affordability is obviously the big buzzword around here this year. Are we driving up costs, and we driving up costs so much that we're now outpricing many students from being able to enroll, because you and I both know college has become almost inaffordable to large populations of people?
Sure, and that's a very good question. And I would say the drivers, I think, are related far more to what geographic locations may look like, what the cost of living may be. And again, that's part of the merit to passing this legislation is the College Park area has a very high cost of living in context to the greater Washington metropolitan area. And in my mind, if we want to be able to recruit and retain the very best graduate assistants, and it's a very competitive market, but if we want to be able to provide the very best to our students here in the in the state of Maryland, I think our university needs to ensure that we are availing ourselves of the opportunity to recruit and retain.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Delegate Wu?
Thank you for the question. I appreciate it.
Delegate Wu.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Thank you, Senator Kramer. Thank you
Good
for
to see
coming.
you, Delegate.
Nice to see you. So I was a graduate student before at University of Maryland, College Park. So I really appreciate the opportunity. That's the reason I pursued my PhD at University of Maryland. I think for many committee members who are not familiar with the situation, usually there are three types of graduate students that are funded: by graduate assistantship, by teaching assistantship, or by fellowship. So for those students who are funded by fellowship, actually, the fellowship may come from University of Maryland or from federal program or even from corporation sponsorship, sometimes even funded by foreign countries as well, or corporation from other countries. So it's really very complex funding issue. I would say there's no way we can mandate corporation or federal government to match for example, the salary increase or other stuff, unless there's some state match that if we mandate your increased funding for the position, and I don't believe, for example, the NSF or the National Science Foundation or DOD or many of them will try to match because we mandate the increase of salary. I never heard about that before. I know that kind of funding mechanism pretty well. So that means the state has put the money there to match that up if there's salary increase. I think that will make the situation really complicated. I think I'm wholeheartedly supportive. We want to make sure that we're supporting our graduate students with better benefit, maybe, actually their benefit kind of steady employee, right? Or better salary, better working condition. I think my huge concern will be the limited opportunities. So I think Delegate Chisholm talked about 30% drop in university in Berkeley, right? University, California University, because they talk about that. 30% drop opportunity for PhD positions. That's really alarming signal. Even the House passed version, I think I have a huge concern about this bill. I wholly support your effort. Thank you very much for this bill. But my concern is the funding, if not catch up, that means we'll get much less opportunities. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that.
Seeing no more questions, Senator Kramer. Oh, I'm sorry. Somebody sneaked in on me. Delegate Lehman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you so much, Senator Kramer. I do not have a question. I just wanted to thank you for your tenacity. I didn't realize it had been 8 years since you first brought this bill, and I just want to say, as a graduate of the University of Maryland, College Park, I have been frustrated over the years and a little embarrassed, frankly, at their recalcitrance and their opposition to collective bargaining. So thank you so much for not giving up.
Thank you, and I very appreciate your thought. Thank you for sharing that.
And thank you, Senator Kramer. That will conclude.
All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Pleasure to see you all.
Senator Washington, let's call you up so you can get to your voting session.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. I'll be very quick. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Senator Alonzo Washington here to present on Senate Bill 673, which is the direct cross-file of HB 1165. There are no amendments to this bill. This is the bill that's a state procurement, apprenticeship completion, and accountability. It's about establishing a minimum 25% completion rate requirement for apprenticeships, programs utilizing the state procurement, creating a performance threshold for certain programs. Again, this bill was already, you guys already voted for this bill. It's already been voted through the Senate already. I urge your favorite report on Senate Bill 673.
Thank you, Senator. Seeing no questions, go ahead to your voting session.
Thank you, sir. Have a good day.
Senator Watson, thank you for being patient. Let's hear from you about Senate Bill 618.
618 is up first. Public ethics. This is not that bill, so you just relax for a minute. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Senator Ron Watson from the 23rd District here to present Senate Bill 618. This is a cross-file of House Bill 636 by Delegate Andrea Harrison. And I come before you, colleagues, today not to weaken ethical standards, but to strengthen fairness, consistency, and common sense within our ethics framework. Some of you may not know that our ethics rules that we are to abide by have not been updated in well over 20 years. For 8 years, I've had the honor of serving in the Maryland General Assembly. During that time, I've seen firsthand the dedication, sacrifice, and financial realities faced by those who choose public service. This bill addresses a narrow but significant issue, the inconsistency in our current law that allows an individual to hold a state or local government position if they obtained it before they were elected, but restricts that same opportunity if it is pursued after serving honorably in this body. Under current law, if someone is already employed by state or local government and is elected to office, they may continue that employment. However, if an individual serves one full term in a General Assembly and seeks similar employment afterwards, they may be barred or restricted due to ethical prohibitions designed to prevent undue influence. When I did a comparison of Maryland, Delaware, Pennsylvania, Maryland has the strictest rules with respect to employment, the strictest in the region. The inconsistency is clear. Same job, same agency, same qualifications, yet the timing alone determines what is permissible. If the concern is corruption or undue influence, that concern does not hinge solely on whether employment was secured before or after election. Ethical standards should be about conduct and not timing. This bill simply provides that after serving one full term, an elected official may pursue public employment under reasonable guardrails, just as someone who held the job before the election is permitted to do. Members of the Maryland Senate and House are not career politicians insulated from financial realities. We're small business owners. We're attorneys, educators, nonprofit leaders, public safety professionals, community advocates, working parents, and caregivers. Many members maintain outside employment because legislative compensation alone doesn't support a family in today's economy. The annual salary of a legislator, while an honor, is not comparable to private sector compensation, nor does it provide long-term financial security. Many of us enter public service not to enrich ourselves, but to serve our communities, often at great personal financial sacrifice. And when that service ends, whether by choice or by the will of the voters, members must transition back into the workforce, artificially restricting employment opportunities in state or local government, even when the individual is fully qualified and competitively selected, creates an unnecessary barrier. So we must be candid. Serving in elected office carries significant financial trade-offs. Careers are interrupted, professional networks shift, private sector advancements may slow, retirement contributions may be impacted. We want our teachers, small business owners, young professionals, mid-career leaders, and community advocates to see legislative service as possible and not financially punitive. The bill does not eliminate ethical oversight. It does not authorize favoritism. It does not permit quid pro quo arrangements. Maryland already has strong conflict of interest laws, procurement safeguards, lobbying restrictions, disclosure requirements, independent ethics review. These protections all remain intact. What the bill does is that someone who has completed a full term of service to compete fairly for public employment, particularly when the employment is obtained through transparent, merit-based processes. Ethics should prevent corruption, not opportunity. So here's a case study. I personally know a gentleman who served honorably as an elected member of the Prince George's County Board of Education. This man opened schools, closed schools, led redistricting activities, created policy, and served delegation with Nancy Grasmick to study CTE education in Denmark. And when elected to the General Assembly, he served as vice chair of the Education Committee for the Prince George's County delegation in the House. He then served honorably as a member of the Education, Energy, and Environment Committee in the Senate and led debate on the blueprint for education. And after all this, what he could not do is work as an advisor to the superintendent of schools because his experience in an elected capacity was deemed invalid. In closing, this bill keeps the Joint Ethics Committee authority intact, creates a narrow exemption for individuals who have served at least one full elected term and objectively satisfies minimum education, licensure, and experience requirement. We've worked on this bill very hard in the Senate. The bill did go to the full Ethics Committee, which was pulled off the floor to discuss, debate it. They made modifications, and I'm here to ask for your favorable report.
Thank you, Senator Watson. Delegate Terrassa.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you so much for this bill. As somebody this has impacted directly for 8 years and who it won't impact in the future because I'm not running for this seat again, I want to tell you that this is such an important piece of legislation. And really my only question for you is why would somebody need to wait a full term and not right away? I spent 12 years as elected official in Howard County, and that prevented me, because I couldn't continue that service, obviously, and do this. It has had a major impact on me for the last 8 years. So thank you for the bill, and do you have any thoughts on that, why we should wait a whole term?
Yeah, thank you for that question. And I've gotten that question at least half a dozen times. And the thing of it was, we didn't want the appearance to the public to be that we've got this job now, we're immediately going to find a job for ourselves. Once you work a full term, not a partial term, a full term, the thought is we have gained some substantial experience. Many of us have been here 8 years, 10 years, 20 years, and have deep, deep experience in education and judiciary and all the fields of study that we now know. This says you are here, you're committed. Now, what one full term really means you're going into your second term if you exercise this, right? You are committed to being here, you're committed to working for the public, and it's only an issue of fairness that you should be able to use the skills that the community has paid you to garner for the benefit of state and local governments, should you choose.
And I appreciate that. I'll just leave you with my opinion is that we should not have to wait a full term. For many people, that is a hardship, economic hardship, and they may already have that expertise. And like you said, if anybody, I mean, we had people who worked in my very office who were able to be elected and continue on with their service for the county, but because they were not elected officials, couldn't do that. So that would be my only suggested change, but I do really appreciate this bill that you and Delegate Harrison brought, and I'm in full support.
The bill is in your hands.
Delegate Sample Hughes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Senator, for the bill, because I know many people who've been in this position have been over years just saying, okay, whatever, I accept it and keep moving. But this certainly has brought it to the forefront. I just want, for clarity purposes, just want to understand, this takes effect, if it passed, would take effect 2027. Now, if, for instance, I'll use myself, I've been here 12 years. Are you saying that I would have to serve another term in order to then be applicable to this, or my years of service prior to would cover this one full term requirement?
Good question. It's not proactive, it's retroactive. So if you have served one full term, you qualify once this bill goes into effect.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Delegate Lehman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Senator Watson, thank you so much for taking a lead on this bill over in the Senate. I am a co-sponsor of the House bill, and I agree with everything Delegate Terrassa said. It's just so important. I too came out of county government, having served 8 years until I was term limited on the county council, took a 60% pay cut to come here, and then had trouble when I really needed to finding secondary employment because of the demands of this job. And so I so appreciate your effort. I do have two questions. One is, and it is in the existing law, so I'm looking at it on page 3. It's not new, but the language around the Joint Committee on Ethics being available to advise members on whether or how to avoid a conflict of interest. Do you know how well that works in reality? I mean, I just imagine during like the busiest time of session, I don't know how many people have to periodically ask the ethics committee to help them out on, an individual vote on a bill in committee or on the floor. Does that system work well, do you know, or do you have any insights into that?
That's a great question, Delegate Lehman. And the point of the answer, I don't know, because the Ethics Committee has always kind of been shielded. And what they do is considered what we call executive types of decisions that is usually held very private and confidential. was only through this bill that they were able to have an open forum and invite the public to actually weigh in, listen to the concerns, and really, treat this bill like any other committee would treat a bill, in the open. So I can't tell you how well it's worked. I can only tell you my personal story. Delegate Terrassa can tell you her story. You have your story. I know Delegate Harrison has hers. Many of us have been impacted by this, in an attempt to just do the people's work. But as I was told by Dia Daly, all the ethics rules and laws that we abide by are well over 20, 25 years old, and they're going to be taking a look at a variety of things. So this is step one, I believe, is very, very important.
It is indeed. Thank you. Thank you for that. And then my last question is, why the change in the effective date from October of this year to January 13th of next year?
We wanted to get past the election. We didn't want anything that looked improper, and so we pushed the date out.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Delegate Wu?
Thank you, Ms. Chair. Thank you, Senator, for coming with this bill. I think many of us sitting here know how challenging to balance jobs. And I think the other point I want to highlight is for people sitting here, we're not able to work for federal government because they are elected partisan position. And then for many federal contractors, they're not allowed that as well. I face that situation. I get an offer, and then they got 3 legal counsel said you couldn't work on that. Even we're not involved with the federal government contracting at all. I think it's a challenge for legislators. We definitely make sure we have a situation here. We keep our, I would say, ethics correct. At the same time, we give everyone the opportunity to work for the state as well. Thank you very much for the bill.
Thank you, Delegate Wu.
Delegate Chisholm?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Senator, for bringing the bill. But you said something that kind of piqued my interest, and I'm curious. Do we actually need to pass a bill, or could ethics make this change on their own?
That is a very, very great question, Delegate. And I have been complaining for many, many years. Every year that I come here to the General Assembly and we all do our financial disclosures and what have you, and I have consistently gone to ethics. Here's the job that I'm looking to take. Can I take it? Can I not? Well, it looks kind of funky. No, yes, whatever the answer may be. And, after 8 years of this, I've got fed up. And so I decided to use our leverage we have as legislators to force the Ethics Committee to sit down, have an in-depth conversation, and come up with what I think is a reasonable compromise. They still have the authority to be able to be the watchdogs and make sure that we're abiding by, all the ethical constraints we're required to follow. But this being able to put this bill in and to have them come out, in agreement with a path forward, I think is a really good first step. And if we hadn't done it this way, I'm not sure it would have happened anytime soon.
Sure. Okay. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Seeing no more questions, Senator Watson, that will conclude the hearing on Senate Bill 618. And now we will move on to Senate Bill 642. And Matt Bully, you're here to answer questions on this?
Correct.
623.
Oh, wrong page, 623.
All right, seems my most important bills have come through this committee. So good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the GLE Committee. Again, Senator Ron Watson, representing 23rd Legislative District, here to respectfully request a favorable report on Senate Bill 623, known as the Maryland Premium Cigar Lounge Act of 2026, cross-filed HB 766 by Delegate Andre Johnson. Last year, I introduced this bill, which resulted in a moratorium on the issuance of new liquor licenses to cigar lounges and instituted a work group. Now, why do we take that approach? Because as we looked into existing cigar lounges, several things became apparent. The most important of which was there are no clear statewide standards for the safe and consistent operation of these entities. In addition, inequities existed across states, and some jurisdictions had them and others did not. Prince George's County was one that had no mechanism to get these in place. So before I start, let me thank the work group members, which was Senator Lamb and Senator Carl Jackson and Delegate Stephen Arentz, as well as Jeff Kelly from the Alcohol, Tobacco, Cannabis Commission, Finney Helmuth representing the cigar retailers, and Nilesh Kalanaraman from the Maryland Department of Health. You know, Maryland already has tobacconists and cigar licenses, but we don't have a clear, consistent standard when alcohol is involved. Senate Bill 623 creates a defined premium cigar lounge license with guardrails, ventilation plans, clear signage, employee acknowledgement, limits on where it can be located, a maximum number that can be authorized in a county, hours upon which alcohol may be sold so adults can enjoy a legal product responsibly in a controlled environment. And while Maryland stops sending business, jobs, and tax dollars across our borders. The work group also found that while some of the existing cigar lounges in the state held a liquor license to sell liquor, others operated on a BYOB. In other words, outside liquor was allowed to be brought in and consumed on premises. This bill removes the ambiguity by requiring a tobacconist to choose one or the other, but not both, in the operation of their business. This bill went through some pretty significant amendments. For example, Montgomery County decided to exempt themselves out of the bill. They decided they did not want cigar lounges in Montgomery County. What we really wanted to focus on is that cigar lounges are primarily a tobacco-related business. They are not a nightclub. They are not a tavern, but a tobacco retail business that requires the average daily receipts from premium cigars and pipe tobacco and cigar-related accessories must be at least 70% of total daily receipts. In other words, you can't be a tobacconist and 80% of your product is alcohol, so you're operating like a tavern or a nightclub. Those of us who know about tobacconists, they are very high upscale places that those are types of activities we want to avoid. We also had an amendment that you cannot have live entertainment. Why? Because there are many folks who thought that the longer you allow someone to linger in secondhand smoke, the more dangerous it is for their health. That was an amendment put in by the Senate. There was also an amendment put in by each county cannot have more than 2 new cigar lounges come online in any given year. That was another one because they wanted to slow roll it. There was another amendment. Boy, there were a lot of amendments. There really were. Matt, you want to go over some of the other amendments that I'm missing?
Sure. Good afternoon. Matt Boley of the Premium Cigar Retailers Association here for purposes of explaining amendments or answering any questions. Additional amendments that were included that were not in the version that this committee saw. There's now a 5-mile radius so that wherever a license is issued, there cannot be one within another 5-mile distance. The licenses are subject to any requirements at the local level for the total number of alcoholic beverages or alcoholic beverage licenses that may be issued in a given jurisdiction. There's now a set of criteria in terms of the application process that would be enumerated in law. There's slight change in the air filtration and exhaust requirements. It's now detailed specifications must be required. In addition to there being a signed acknowledgement that the employee will be working in an environment in which there is secondhand smoke, that waiver or that statement must now enumerate the dangers of secondhand smoke and also very clearly acknowledge that this is not waiving any employee rights under federal, state, or local workplace safety regulations. If the tobacconist is not in requirement with the 70% threshold, for premium cigar and pipe tobacco sales, there's now very clear language that the license may be suspended, revoked, or other enforcement actions may be taken. Cigarettes, electronic smoking devices, and cannabis may not be used on premise. Commercial kitchens may not exist on premise.
One cigar lounge per 150,000 residents is the criteria for each county. And so, said another way, Montgomery County can get 7, Prince George's can get 6, and it kind of goes down from there. If any jurisdiction has less than that amount, they are allowed 1 cigar lounge. The existing cigar lounges that currently exist are grandfathered in, so they are a part of that count. The existing cigar lounges also have 2 years to come in compliance under the new law and a new criteria as well. And they have to make the designation if they want a liquor license or they want the BYOB, but they can't have both.
Additionally, there was discussion or question in this committee about licensed healthcare facilities and childcare facilities. As introduced, it was they can't be adjacent. It is now more clear that they can no longer share a wall with those facilities. I think that in brief covers the new amendments from the Senate. Glad to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you, Senator Watson. Do we have questions? I see Delegate Terraza.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for the information about the bill. I have two questions. One was about that adjacent. So something could be adjacent, but if it doesn't share a wall, now it could have a tobacco.
That's been changed.
Correct.
I thought you were going the other way. It sounded like what you changed. Sorry, Senator. I thought I understood Mr. Boley to say it changed the other way, like now.
There was too much ambiguity with using the term adjacent. So what we mean is a shared wall. So if you have a shared wall, you cannot operate a cigar lounge next to a medical facility or a facility that services children.
Okay. And the other question I had, and I know we spoke earlier, Mr. Boley, was do we know what counties have caps on the number of liquor licenses? Because I guess what I'm trying to understand is how much this is expanding any particular county's liquor licenses.
So actually, I spoke with the ATCC after our conversation. I am aware in brief that Baltimore County has limitations on the total number of liquor licenses. Baltimore City has restrictions based on the election district. There may be other, wrinkles to that at the local level. I would say, though, broadly, when it's 1 per 150,000 people, when you look at that from a statewide perspective, and then you're also subtracting, the current licensees who are being converted over, it's ballpark 30, 35-ish new licenses that would be eligible statewide.
But we don't know what other counties have caps on there.
I was not able to obtain that.
Yeah, I know we did just speak,
in
but
the
that
past,
is.
hour
Okay,
or so.
thank you.
Delegate Klippinger.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Mr. Chair. The two questions. There's looking at the third reading version of the bill, which I'm assuming there weren't any amendments at third reader were added to the bill.
No, not on third reader in the Senate.
So the bill sets up a weighted selection process and puts quite a few requirements on it, but then doesn't require the liquor board to pay any attention to it. Why is that?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that last piece?
It doesn't require the liquor board to pay any attention to the weighted process and to the scoring process. Just tells them to create it. Doesn't require them to use that to determine how the license
thank you
should
for
be
the
given or
question.
not.
So the thought was, and we did put in, the social equity the social equity piece when it comes to looking at those who want to go into this business. However, we did not want to make the bill too restrictive. It's one of those uncodified pieces where, you make your best effort, but we didn't want to be more specific than that.
Okay. In D2 Roman 4, and this goes to Delegate Terraza's question a little bit, but comes back to the 46th District and other Baltimore City districts. The issuance of a Class C PCL license is subject to local regulations regarding the total number of alcoholic beverages licenses that may be issued in a single jurisdiction. So that would not address if there was a restriction on a specific precinct or precincts in Baltimore City for getting new liquor licenses added to them. Is that correct?
I would say, as we have discussed previously, open to clarifying language that effectuates that intent.
I think that has been one of my bigger concerns, and we have talked about it, and I appreciate your time with it. And that, I think, that clarification is what I'll be trying to do. All right, thank you.
Delegate Lehman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I have a couple questions too about what I'm looking at, the third reader version of the bill. So on page 4, where it says a licensing board may not issue more than, what is it, 2 of these premium cigar lounge licenses per year. What is the total cap? 2 every year, forever and ever and ever?
No.
Up to 2 more?
The cap,
It's
the
not
cap is
clear.
the 1 per 150,000 per county. So for example, in Prince George's County, where we have none, and we are allowed up to, I think, 6, we can't just roll out 6. The intent was to slow roll this out to try to minimize the impact, to the community.
So those things are all combined because they're separate paragraphs. A local licensing board may not issue more than 2, new Class C PCL licenses in a single jurisdiction. Then it goes on to talk about the 2 provisions around population, that a local licensing board may issue 1 class premium cigar lounge license per 150,000 residents, up till it reaches its max of whatever that is in the biggest counties. Well, not Montgomery, of course, because Montgomery's exempt.
All right.
But Prince George's next biggest county, so that's how that works?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay, and then there's a different standard for under 150,000 residents.
It's 1 for under 150,000.
That's, okay, 1, okay. If it has fewer, may issue 1. May issue 1 per year or 1 period?
1 period.
Where did the idea for these formulas come from?
Finance Committee.
I mean, there's no existing such similar formula anywhere in, for other alcohol establishments.
Not,
And I realize this is a cigar, but it is also alcohol. So that's what I'm wondering. Is there anything this complicated in law for, this formulaic, I guess, based on population? No?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay, well, my other concern, and this is a bigger one, because this affects the heart of my district, okay? There's language on page 4 that talks about how a local board cannot issue a license, more than 1 license in a 5-mile radius. So this doesn't recognize a place like Laurel. Do you know how many counties come together in Laurel? Not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4. Okay, within a 5-mile radius, Montgomery, Prince George's, Anne Arundel, and Howard. So how would that work in that area? Does that mean each of those counties does not have to consider that there could be a facility within walking distance of another proposed facility? Because I would ask you to consider language around that recognizes that reality in some places. It's a problem.
I think that's a reasonable question. Certainly glad to, look at changes to that, and of course, certain that this committee will make the best decision.
I would like some further consideration of that very real situation that exists in my district certainly, but it must exist elsewhere. And thank you.
That's a great question. Thank you for that. And I will tell you that the amendments you're referring to came from Senator Washington, who is very concerned as well. And so we'd be happy to take a look at that. But I do just want the committee to understand that without this bill, the moratorium is lifted come July. And it's back to anybody put up anything they want anywhere that their current laws allow. And there's no standards, no guardrails, no ATF, we lose what we've been trying to carve out in this for over 2 years now. And so I am happy to get cracking on whatever you, Delegate Clippinger, want to provide, but we really, really want to make the best effort to get this bill across the line.
Delegate Fisher.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question is, how does this bill, as it has been amended, substantially affect the existing tobacco stores, the cigar stores that have BYOB licenses? I presume that's a licensed thing, or they just have the ability to have BYOB. How are they affected by this bill?
Yeah, so BYO varies throughout the counties. Many counties do not currently authorize BYO. Some do. This would enable a path to compliance in that BYO, the retailer could receive a BYO authorization.
The bill, as amended, offers a path to compliance. So if you already have a BYOB license and in your tobacco store, in your cigar store, are you saying that there's another hoop for them to jump through in order to re-comply, even though they're already in compliance?
Kind of yes, kind of no. So Delegate Fisher, there is no real standard in the way you would apply for a BYOB license right now. It's just a way that a business does business. What this bill does is creates an enforcing mechanism so that I think it's the ATF can track the total number of folks who have BYOB, the total number of folks who have, traditional liquor licenses. And then there's the whole enforcement piece on this thing, because not only do we have to monitor underage drinking and all of those things and make sure you're not serving alcohol after specified hour. We have to make sure you're not selling cigars to
No, I got you.
those
My
folks.
question is in Anne Arundel County, you need a license to get a BYOB for your cigar store, and some of those exist. And so how does this bill affect those folks? Do they have to reapply to get that license? Or are they grandfathered in?
They should be able to get that authorization. I couldn't see why if they have a license for it already, I couldn't see why they wouldn't get an authorization from that board that issued that license.
How does the social equity impact them if they're not 65% owned by the criterion that you set out in this bill?
I believe that that's not in the unlicensed section, because it's not, the unlicensed section, starting on page 6.
I'm just saying the BYOB is a licensed, it's currently licensed in some counties, I presume. Certainly it is in this one. So, does that address? Just ask if it's addressed, that's all.
Yeah, no, understood. Just on page 6, it starts with unlicensed establishments, and the new requirements for licensing aren't in that section.
Okay. And then last question is, and thank you, Mr. Chairman, is if you have only one license per county, and a county doesn't have 150,000 people, but they still default with the one license, which I presume is the intent of the bill, you're creating something that's incredibly valuable, and incredibly valuable, especially for a county like mine. What happens to the one cigar store in my county that already has a license to sell liquor by the local liquor board in their cigar store with this bill?
They would be converted, and then there would be no additional license sale.
So you're conveying to them
licenses.
incredible value with this bill. So then why not open it up to others instead of, I have a problem with that because it's.
I don't think it's an unreasonable question, but this has been a long series of compromises.
I get it.
Yeah.
No, I get it. I wish,
Yeah, that's a reasonable question. Would we be okay with 2 in a county? I don't think we would oppose that, but I'm sure there are others who will.
How about if that retailer doesn't fall into the category of social equity applicant, but they already have the license? They're grandfathered in, I guess.
Correct. They would be converted.
Grandfathered in.
Correct.
Okay. So the social equity applicant criterion applies to every single applicant prospectively?
As a consideration in the process.
For new.
As a
correct.
consideration or as a requirement?
It's a consideration.
Thank you.
Yep.
Seeing no additional questions. Oh, I'm sorry. Delegate Clippinger.
I'm putting a note in my file for taking a second bite of the apple, but for the last 7 years, I haven't been able to. So, but I want to riff off of the last 2 questions here. So I'm an existing BYOB tobacconist, and I have the ability to do what I've been doing for forever, and that conceivably that's what this bill was seeking to protect, would give them a pathway forward so that they were licensed. So I sit 2 miles from a county line, and the adjacent county says, oh, well, we're going to cite one right a mile in, 3 miles from them, and a mile from the county border. So X county says, I've got a new facility right over here. Does that force the initial place, the place that conceivably we were trying to give a pathway for some level of licensing? It basically says to them, you can't get licensed.
The radius doesn't apply to BYO.
No. What he's saying is
the BYO person can't go forward and get the C license now.
Delegate, the
because
intent.
the adjacent county just put a place close to the line.
Yeah, that's not the intent. The the intent was to create this criteria for within counties, irregardless of what the other counties do. We can't stop a county from putting something at the border and the other at the other border. But within that county, you cannot set up shop within 5 miles of an existing one.
Well, so to riff off Delegate Lehman for a moment, in not just Laurel, but several other places, even Bowie, you would have situations where it could go over the line into Crofton, or in my district, it conceivably could go 5 miles into 2 different counties, into Anne Arundel and into Baltimore County. And so now the Baltimore City Liquor Board, or any of those liquor boards, could be determining what happens in my district. So I guess that's one of the questions here, is not only are we creating licenses with real value, but we're also, I think, missing what I remember is the point of the first hearing we had on this, which was that there are existing people who have the existing businesses that we want to move towards getting licensed. Instead, this creates something that creates a whole number of new license holders, which, okay, if that's what we want to do, but I don't think it pays attention to sort of the unique geography and the unique questions of the state.
So the existing licensees, the existing tobacconists who have a local liquor license, they will be converted.
Got it.
And then, just as there was, as this bill introduced in both chambers, there is a limited expansion. Again, the up to 30-ish or so, that could be authorized statewide. Or throughout the state. So that was in both bills as introduced and still remains in
So the people with the liquor licenses, and that makes me feel a little better, the people with existing liquor licenses, fine.
Correct.
Is there anything in the bill that says that if they get this license, they have to get rid of the license, not just transfer it away, they have to?
Yes, it's a conversion to this new license.
They have to convert it to the
correct,
license,
and they get
just
a
to be clear.
Correct, they get a 2-year period to come into compliance with the terms and conditions.
So that's fine with that, but I guess I'll go back shockingly to Delegate Fisher's point, which I don't even know. But to the broader point that if someone had to get a BYOB license, that's not changing like with like. You're not changing from, in what I would generally see, I think, is a D license into a C. This is changing a BYOB license.
So in this bill, for BYO, it's not a license, it's an authorization.
Got it.
So that's how I think we avoid that question and confusion.
Okay. All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, going once. Going twice. That concludes the hearing on Senate Bill 618.
Thank you,
And we are joined by, all right, let's, Senator Rosa Papp. Welcome to Government, Labor, and Elections.
Thank you. It's great to be back. Senator Jim Rosabep from the 21st District, representing that center of the universe, Laurel, bordered by 4 counties, among other places, but thank you. So this bill is the cross-file of Delegate Foley's bill. And the essence of it is to try to help preserve and enhance local journalism in Maryland.
For the record, let me just announce it. This is Senate Bill 459.
Great, thank you. Basically, the idea is to try to help preserve and expand local journalism in Maryland. It's based on a model that's used several other places in the country, and it basically says that the state should prioritize advertising in local publications, setting a goal of 50% of advertising that state agencies do in local publications. When I say publications, that is misleading. It's local outlets, so it can include digital, it can include broadcast, it can include print. It's all of journalism. And basically, the definitions are in the bill that it basically has to be local. It has to be local. It has to have at least one full-time staff person, but I have an amendment that Delegate Foley has as well, because there's several of the nonprofit publications that are very robust that actually have several part-time employees but add up to at least one. So we have an amendment that you have that says the equivalent of one full-time employee. And it also says that to help the state agencies, that a nonprofit association, the expectation is it would be the newspaper association in Maryland would create a list of what are publications that would meet this standard to help the agencies figure out what to do. It also has some language to encourage use of specialized publications that serve particularly underserved communities. That's it. Happy to take questions.
All right, questions for Senator Rosa Pep? Seeing none?
Thank you very much.
That'll conclude the hearing on Senate Bill 459. Anyone here from Senators? Well, I see Senator Quarterman, so let's call you up, Senator. This is Senate Bill 641.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. For the record, Senator Paul Quarterman representing District 2, Washington and Frederick counties. Senate Bill 641 is a bill that you heard previously, which was, let me find out real quick, was House Bill 728. It exempts the Department of General Services, the Maryland Department of Planning, the Department of Housing and Community Development, and MDOT from most provisions of state procurement law when negotiating or entering into agreements or partnerships with nonprofit entities for projects related to historic preservation, archaeology, or conservation service opportunities. By clarifying this procurement requirement and expanding partnership opportunities, this bill will help facilitate collaborative efforts that advance important public initiatives. This balanced approach promotes efficiency while also ensuring accountability and the use of public resources. You'll see through here, as you probably did in the previous hearing, there's no opposition to the bill. It's got support from a variety of departments. I do understand there has been some concerns raised about MBEs being exempted. The only thing I think I would add to that is the way the law is currently written, it requires these entities to follow state law for competitive subcontracting, which includes MBEs. So this is already something that's being done, and so any of those concerns should really not be a concern. So I'm happy to answer any questions. We would ask for a favorable report and appreciate your time.
Questions for Senator Quarterman? Madam Chairman, please proceed.
Thank you. Can you elaborate more on the MBE piece, please?
Yeah, so I appreciate that, Madam Chair, because that was brought to my attention that has been a concern of the committee. And so we reached out to the advocates who presented this bill and brought this to us. And again, as I read it there at the beginning, or towards the end rather, the way the bill is already, or not the bill, but current statute is, they already have to follow those same provisions in regards to MBEs. So this doesn't circumvent any type of provision of MBEs. It's just to help assist the facilitation with some of the procurement policies throughout the state and things of that nature.
Okay, so there would not be any MBE exemptions under
That's my
this?
understanding.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good to see you, Senator.
Likewise, Delegate.
Thank you very much for bringing the bill. I just wanted to ask a clarifying question. This is something that has existed with DNR for many years, correct? This is just expanding to allow that same opportunity for some of the other agencies as it comes to historic preservation and archaeology.
Yep, that is correct. I appreciate you pointing that out. That this is something that we currently do with other departments. So thank you.
Delegate Stewart.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mr. Senator, for being here, for bringing the bill. I want to go back to the MBE point, because I understand that they have to go through the process. I think the concern, though, is a little different than what you stated, which is that if a nonprofit just gets the contract as like the prime, then they're theoretically, I think the concern is that they're getting an opportunity that a for-profit MBE could otherwise get if not for the bill. However, my understanding is in practice, like with DNR, what actually happens is that these nonprofits almost never, if ever, self-perform, that they contract this out to subs to actually do the work for archaeology or conservation services and the like. That's how things work in practice. So in other words, if you're someone who is concerned about MBEs, they would still get another bite at the apple as a sub. Does that sound right?
Sure.
And would you be opposed to us clarifying in the bill that if nonprofits wanted the favorable treatment that the bill offers, that they would be required to subcontract and they could not self-perform, again, to diminish the concerns around MBEs even further?
I think it's very reasonable.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for the questions. Seeing no further questions from the committee, that will conclude our bill hearing on SB 641. Thank you very much, Senator Quarterman.
Thank you.
We'll move next to SB 642. I believe we have a chief of staff presenting for the Senate president. No, I think the intern got promoted. They did such a wonderful job last week that they are now chief of staff for the office, district office.
Hello again. He sent me back because I did so well last time. Luke Klippinger, Special Assistant to the Senate President, here on Senate Bill 642, which in the great tradition of 46 district liquor bills has amendments at the end of session. There are 4 additional amendments that are being added, that were added by the Senate to the liquor bill, and that were added to the House bill, which I believe has popped out of the Senate already. First, it allows the holders of 6-day Class D liquor licenses to update their license and make it a 7-day Class D license if specific requirements are met, including executing an MOU, a Memorandum of Understanding, with the relevant local neighborhood association, paying a one-time fee of $15,000, operating in a location with 100 or fewer seats, maintaining daily food receipts of at least 51%, and prohibiting the converted license from being transferred to a new location, and requiring any new owner to comply with the above requirements. Very briefly on this point, it's a little unusual to create a 7-day license out of a 6-day license. A 6-day license has a value in Baltimore City. The 7-day license has a value at the time of transfer. What this is doing, what a lot of 6-day Class D license holders are generally small restaurants. Not all of them, but many of them are. And so what this does is it gives them a pathway effectively to become a restaurant license. Given that this is riveting, I'll continue on to the second one. It allows a Class D BD7 license holder in the 600 block of Portland Street in the 46th Legislative District, close to Camden Yards, to be eligible for a Class 7 microbrewery license. It's Quigley's Half Irish Pub in Ridgely's Delight. It actually was given the chance to be a microbrewery by the people of the 40th District, but it didn't get around to it. So now we're going to try again with 46th District. It revives a Class B license at the Broadway Diner at 6501 Eastern Avenue, which inexplicably was allowed to lapse. And it revives a Class D license at what was San Pablo Tacos for purpose of a transfer to a new owner. Those are what the amendments to the bill do, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Seeing no questions from the committee, that will conclude the bill hearing for SB 642. Great job. Maybe you'll be the senator the next time we see you. We'll move on next to SB 426. I believe we have a staff from Senator Sidner's office to present the bill. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Thank you for having me. Jenna Scott on behalf of Senator Sidnor to present Senate Bill 426 regarding the Public Information Act and divorce records. This passed unanimously through the Senate, and the House cross-file 403 passed unanimously through the House, so it'll be very brief. It makes divorce records private by default, with exceptions for the parties to the divorce, their attorneys, and anyone authorized by the court. Easy peasy. Thank you.
Thank you very much for presenting the bill. Seeing no questions from the committee, that will conclude the bill hearing on SB 426.
Thank you.
And I believe SB 426 will conclude our bill hearings for today. So we will adjourn and we'll reconvene in 5 minutes for our vote session.